All right, all right, all right. Here we go. And we're live. What's happening, people? Hey, we're just doing a Inkarnate, however you want to say it, inkarnate.com, Inkarnate, say Inkarnate, like the pun, Inkarnate.com maps. So I have the subscription to Inkarnate.com, and this is where I recently started making all my maps for Dungeons and Dragons, and I love it. It is super easy, and you really don't have to be a great artist to do much of this. It's kind of like those old sticker books. I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember the sticker books where you'd have like a background and then you'd have a bunch of stickers and you place the stickers on the sticker books and make some cool picture, story, whatever. It's pretty much what's happening here. Super easy. By far the best way to make your maps for your D&D game. So any DMs out there, future DMs, people who just want to make maps for whatever it is that you want to make maps for, this is the way to do it. It's fantastic. I love it. There are other map making things that are a little more tactical, you could say, but I love this. I even import the maps from here over to Roll20, and they import great. They import very clear. I used them for our first one shot 2 weeks ago. So, yeah, it's fantastic. I love it. This is an example of a finished map. Took me a couple hours to make. It really didn't take long to make what I wanted, but then I kept adding stuff. So like these little details around the corner of the map, and I changed, like zoomed in, and like these didn't need to be here to tell the story, but I made them anyway. This didn't have to be here, but it just kind of made it look a little more lived in, like it wasn't super simple. The only thing I don't like about it is the zooming in, zooming out system. Like you can't just grab it and move, and it makes sense, but I wish you could just like press some buttons and move stuff around a little easier. But you just kind of have to move to where you want to zoom in, and then go to the other side and zoom out, and it'll scoot it over. But let's move it back this way. All right. So we're going to start. What's happening, DNF? Hey, I appreciate it, brother. It's good to see you, man. I this last week, I didn't really do much. Big moves in life that I'm focusing on, but I still want to make sure I have a little bit of a presence. I don't want to lose the momentum we have. Let's get out of this one, return to my maps. So, figure I'd jump on here. Normally we do a character creation stream. I'm happy to do any character creations that people want to do, if you'd rather do that than maps, but I wanted to show off a little how-to on the maps. Yeah, I'll do that. Anyway, all right. So, first thing you do, create new map. Now, this is going to give you your options on what type of map you want. The Parchment World is fantastic. This is the best one for your fully zoomed out maps. This one's really good to show if you're on some sort of nautical campaign. This is a good one to just show the world in general. Little detail, you just want to know kind of what continents are where, get a general idea of what's happening on. Fantasy World, this one is really good for those Lord of the Rings style maps where you really want to just show a region. And what's nice about that is if you're doing a campaign where you don't want to explain the entire world, because guess what? The travel and stuff isn't as immersive in this world. There's not portals to everywhere. There's just one area that is the world to these people. You do a fantasy world map. Fantasy regional, this is nice for if you're kind of describing what's going on in a city. You need a runaway, like a heist type of situation. That's a really good one to do. Watercolors is a fun one. This one's a little more zoomed in. This is really nice for like battle maps. Well, I mean, it says right there, watercolor battle map. So Gunslinger like Percy, that's a good question. That is, I believe, under Fighter. Let me pull up my D&D Beyond. And it's in D&D Beyond. You have to make sure your critical role stuff is actually checked. So go to your account, go to characters, and create character right here. What's up, Rain? Good to see you. Standard. So critical role stuff has to be clicked on, and I believe he's under Fighter. So let's, I could be wrong here. I haven't actually made a Gunslinger yet, but all right. So we go to class and Fighter. Fighter style. I thought for sure it was under the Fighter. I could be wrong. Yeah, Rain's absolutely right that Percy was a homebrew from Matt. But I thought they had... I know there's resources out there if you're just going to do paper and pen. But... because it's a based off the Fighter, has all the Fighter traits. Let me see if it's under martial archetype. There it is, Gunslinger. Boom. I was right. Okay, so you have to get to level 3 and go to martial archetype Gunslinger. And then here's all your firearm proficiencies, gunsmithing, which gives all the stuff you need to know. Reloading, misfires, explosive, ammunition. For those of you who haven't seen Percy in action, gunslingers are brutal. They're so good. They're very powerful, but they are extremes. So they either are doing amazing or you're kind of stuff's blowing up in your face. It's meant to be like an experimental new technology, basically. Yeah, so that, to me, that fits better. Rain is the artificer, but the way Matt made it was through the fighter class. But it totally fits the artificer. I think they tried to put some of, like, form some of the new artificer stuff around that, especially whenever Vox Machina stuff got very popular recently. But yeah, Depths Marksman. He also took Sharpshooter as his feat, so his race was a human, but it was human, and I'll show you, variant human. Because variant human, as a human, you get 1 point in all of your, wouldn't choose that, all of your abilities, right? So, strength, dex, con, intellect, wisdom, charisma, but in the human variant, you only choose 2. So dexterity and wisdom. But what you get is a feature, and he took the sharpshooter feature, and that was very big because sharpshooter feature is very underrated, especially if you can get any kind of advantage or you have a bard that's kind of buffing you up a little bit. Because the sharpshooter feature just lets you add 10 damage. Like it's -5 to you hitting the thing, but you get to just do 10 damage on top of all your dice and stuff. When you think about that, a D12 on average does what? 6 or 7 plus whatever your modifier is, usually 3 or 4. So on average, a D12, which is the best weapon you can get, is doing 10. So to get just a flat 10 out of nowhere, other than crits, is amazing. It's super strong. People underrate it very much. What's up, Mike? How's it going? No, I was trying to change it up and do a little map making, a quick map making tutorial because some people are commenting on my maps from the one shot. But did you want to know about the Percy's class and how to make a gunslinger? So here we go. Yeah, so his gun would break. It was under, I know nat 1s, but some would also jam. I believe it's under the gunsmith stuff. Misfires. Whenever you make an attack roll with a firearm and the dice roll is equal to or lower than the weapon's misfire score, the weapon misfires. The attack misses, and the weapon cannot be used again until you spend an action or try to repair it. So, let's see. So, Tinkerer's Tools is equal to 8 plus your misfire. Where's your misfire score? I believe it's on your actual... Here it is. It's on your weapon itself. So, your pistol misfire score is 1. Reload's a 4. Pepper box was misfire was 2. Bad news misfire was 3. You see how that goes. No problem. No problem. Okay, so let's move back to what we were doing. I actually need to mess with this real quick. Make sure everything's good to go. Thanks for your patience. There we go. That looks better. What's up, Ellie? Bidet? Beep, beep. I was going to make some maps tonight. But like I said, if anyone wants me to do a character creation instead, I'll gladly swap over and change the title. But some people were asking about the maps from the one shot. So Matthew, how's it going? Yeah, high risk, high potential for sure. And that's kind of, I like that. I don't love guns in D&D. I don't hate them. I'm coming around to them a little bit, but I don't love guns in D&D. I like guns that are magic based, not gunpowder based. So magic based guns, totally fine with me. Arcane blasters. What's the other one? The something cannon. I forget the name of it, but anything like that is fine with me. But I don't love kind of that feel. But the class itself is awesome. I love roll the dice, high risk, high reward. It's fun to play. And it really lets you bring that into your character, too. Oh, thanks, Ellie. I thought they were cool. That's why I want to kind of show them off. So, again, anyone wants me to do class stuff, I'm happy to jump around. I can edit it afterwards. No big deal. So, here are your types of maps in Inkarnate. Fantasy World. Parchment World, which is what I might jump into. Fantasy Regional, watercolor battle maps, watercolor cities, which is really nice. These I've found aren't as useful as you think. They take a lot of time and of course battle maps. But the watercolor cities take a lot of time. They look great, but there's not a ton of use for them. Like, give you a general idea of the city, sure, but battle maps, regional maps, Fantasy World maps, you get a ton more usage. Think about it like maps when you're reading a book. Like you read Lord of the Rings, you see Middle Earth. You're jumping back and forth. When people are mentioning different places, you're going back to your map. Doesn't really happen so much with the watercolor cities because you're not naming every single building in the watercolor city. It's actually the fantasy regional that's a little different. You do like a part of the town, which parts of the town are really strong if you're going that in depth on a city. Then you're like, okay, you have to try to find a way into the Midnight Tavern. And, okay, well, where can I see into the Midnight Tavern? Where can I climb and jump over into the top of the building? Okay, well, there's an inn next to it. So let's book a room on the top of the inn and then jump into it. That fantasy regional, get a lot of use out of that. Watercolor City's not so much, but they're still really cool. What's up, Carl? Do you run an in-person home game? I do. On Mondays, I run an in-person home game, and it's spicing up pretty good, actually. It's super fun. I'm the DM for it, and I much prefer the in-person, but I do like the convenience of like Roll20 and any kind of online game. I think they're fantastic. So I actually don't mind either. I've DM'd for both, but I prefer the in-person much more. And I'll print these, my main map I printed off for my my group. I did draw one out first, and I liked it fine. Everyone liked it fine. I love this map so much better. But here we go. I like this style. But let's pick a style for our parchment world. We can create a whole new world. Let's do this one. This one seems super clean. We'll do landscape portrait. Depends on what we want to make. Let's say landscape's first one. Let's do landscape. But yeah, I'll show you. Let me save this. I'll show you my home world that I made. It's a little more zoomed in. Save as D&D 101. Inkarnate has a free version, which is fine. Get you your very basic stuff. I love the subscription version. You have access to way more things, and it's worth, I think it's like $25 a year. So if you have a D&D group, say, hey, can everyone pitch in? Everyone pitch in $5 a year. They shouldn't have a problem with it. So here is my home world right here. This is kind of my Middle Earth. This is called Mirakesh. Once it comes up. This one's for my in-person game, and I brought it over for the one shot we did. So, yeah, we're not going to ever explore everything in here. Some highlights. Serenity, I think, is really cool. It's like a ship city. So it's a bunch of old ships put together, and it's like just a city out in the ocean. This is where the orcs live. Has a really cool story to it. This is kind of like the main human city, Goldenia. Hidden Forest is like the elf area, and all of like the features. I basically made the features, did random stuff for the cities, and then built the city or the story around it. Right, so Goldenia was kind of out on its own area. That's a peninsula, right? Had its own peninsula, and then you had a port that had access to Katara, to Dijuse, to the Hidden Forest, to Aragol. So it made sense that this would be a big hub as far as for trade. So it became the hub for trade. This chasm happened, and big monsters started coming out of it. And it made sense that because it only had this small area to defend, and enough time to defend it that while all these other towns close to it were either destroyed, what am I doing? Were either destroyed or weakened, that Goldenea just kind of boomed. So this is the biggest city because it makes sense. The Elven City, kind of same thing. It has this natural defense, but you can see that there were some cities that were next to it that were big that were just destroyed. So making the city helped me create the story. Let's go back to the chat. Have you read China Mills' The Scar? I have not. It has a similar flotillous city of ships. Oh, nice. Either way, love the map. Lots of intriguing stuff. Yeah. Any questions you have? I appreciate that. I will try to read that. I like reading quite a bit. Yeah. It's not the freshest of ideas. I'm sure that it made sense. So basically, what happened was this: one of the gods, God of Chaos, opened up this giant chasm and tried to basically send this city into another plane. When that happened, a bunch of giant monsters started coming out, and all the people from these cities got together, said, hey, we need a city of peace, aka Serenity. Let's get our bunch of ships, sail out to sea, and that's what they did. And they band together and got away from, they didn't really want to fight, so they got away from this area. Just kind of made sense. I think the lore behind Did You Say was one of my favorites. It's an orc encampment because orcs were enslaved on the ship. Again, not a new thing. It's an old fantasy trope, but orcs were enslaved. They're praying to Cord to save them. Cord basically released them. The orcs took over the ship, killed all the slave masters, but none of them knew how to sail. So they crashed into this island and built their city there. Is Newton area your go-to place to buy, innovate, sell, and research new zipline technology? Do what? Am I missing something there, Matthew? Mithril Canyon, I can't tell you about, just in case some of my players are on here. They haven't visited this place yet, but there's some really cool stuff going on here. It's kind of the western city. And they haven't come to Sharvin either. But anyway. So this is what the maps look like. The regional maps look like whenever you finish them. Tons of cool stuff. Oh, the chains. Yeah, that was basically, there is a magic card that, let me see if I can find it. I want to say it's an island, so if anyone plays Magic the Gathering, and it had these giant chains coming into it. Here's the art for it. And I thought it was just really cool looking. All right, I found it. Let me see if I can pull it up or blow it up. Yeah, so here it is. And I thought these were just it got my imagination going. And that's actually somewhere for character creation and for world creation. Go search up some of the really good fantasy art out there. Anything that Wizards of the Coast produces is fantastic. They are the most, by a mile, they produce the most fantasy art. And they have the best artists from all around the world making art for Wizards, for D&D, for Magic the Gathering, and some other things as well. And this is beautiful, man. That's gorgeous. I was like, all right, what are those chains going up to? What are they anchored down to? How'd they get there? Who made them? And asking those questions, you can create some really cool storylines. And that's basically where that came from, is I wanted chains to be in this world. So how do I do that? Okay, well, they got to be holding something down, probably something trying to float away. How about a city? Okay, have the city start floating away, and that just got the ball rolling on everything. And that's where New Denary came from. That would be a very cool zipline area, though. We have an island that is actually, it's kind of like it has a bunch of spires, nothing like Critical Role. This is just an island with a bunch of pillared style mountains, and everything is zipline or like a kite, kind of Aang style, right? That you can ride from a kite from one, or glide from one to the other. So that one is actually made by one of my players who he started DMing in my world, and it's really cool creating stuff with him. But yeah, we haven't. Yeah, thanks, Ellie. I think it's a great way to create your world or characters. Find cool looking art and ask questions and make a story behind it. What's up, role models? How you doing? Hope you guys had a good weekend. All right, what do we got going here? All right, so they were pretty much lucky to have crash into solid land and not sink. Yeah, I mean, they would have been sailing either way, and as long as the seas didn't get crazy. I mean, they knew enough to steer, but they couldn't land the ship. And so it was the first piece of land they saw. They'd rather be on land than on sea, and they crashed into it. Now the boat is wrecked, and they've used it as part of a building, and they've lived off the land ever since. And I kind of based it off of the Mongolian history too. So it's got some really cool things. If you know anything about Mongolian history, the greatest kingdom to ever be on the face of the earth. The Mongolians took over the most land. Most landmass ever owned was by the Mongolians. But they did it with these very fierce warriors that would actually they would feed off of the blood of their horses. So everything they did was take care of their horses, and then they would feed off it was a mixture between horse blood and like milk. And that was how they lived, because it was just a bunch of big grasslands. And so I kind of took that idea, and it's an island filled with wyverns, and they basically live with and off the wyverns and take care of them at the same time. It's a really cool place. So, Matthew, any place that can make chains that amazing would have that tech. I got you now. Yeah, so the chains are made by the gods. So yes, this is a high-tech area, but it's like Mount Olympus. Think of it like Mount Olympus. No one gets up there unless they're a demigod or being elevated to. And this is where you live basically with the gods. It's Mount Olympus. So yeah, not only do they have great technology, they also have access to high magic, which normal mortals do not. Rain, is there stuff your players have missed in the places? Oh yeah, they've been to, whether that be NPCs, items, places, or stories. I don't know if you can say exactly what they've missed stuff in general. They've missed so many things. We kind of sped through a little bit faster than I wanted to. So they started off in this area called Umber right here. And it's based off the goddess Umberlee. And they missed you make shopkeepers and different shops and different Easter eggs, and they missed at least half of them. They haven't even. I've made so many cool things about this city called Katara. They haven't even stepped foot in it. They did in a one shot, but that was it. They haven't been to Goldenia. They've basically been to Umber, Katara, Serenity, and DJ, and that's it. They haven't been to the rest of the world at all. They kind of traveled this little road. They did go to this little city and came down to a little area down here and then came back up. So you can't guess where they're going to be. What's up, Darian? Seem to recall chains being part of the opening area of ESO as well. Could have been. I'd have to go back and watch that. I watched ESO and I enjoyed it, but I feel like I missed so much. But could have been. I made this 2 years ago. So I predated them a little bit. But again, I basically stole part of the idea from Magic the Gathering. Just that beautiful art. And it's just on one of the lands. Like, something that doesn't need to be special at all. Let's see. Ellie always volunteering. Good old Ellie. Charles, nice map. Really like this program. Yeah, have you used the program, Charles? I think it's fantastic. It's so clean, so clutch. It makes everything just super clear. It's great. And if you use Roll20, you can just transfer these over, and they're fantastic. Saw that on Tasting History about the Mongols. Oh yeah, I like that show. I haven't seen that episode. I saw one in Africa where they do something very similar with the bison, or are they water buffalo? I think they're water buffalo there. Where they do something very similar with the water buffalo. I have not seen one about Mongolia yet, but I did. Every building is a yurt in this place. Do I have my yurts? So I'm painting my yurts, but every tent house is a Mongolian yurt that they live in, and I love yurts. Right, have they been playing in the campaign for long? We just got to a year. I would understand if they have been playing for long that they haven't found a lot yet. So that's kind of on me. Really, you can run a campaign in a few different ways. One way is to just kind of touch on a bunch of different places. Your seafaring campaigns are like that, where you're at a place for a couple sessions and you go somewhere else. So, but if you're watching Critical Role Season 3, they have stayed in the same place the entire time, and they got Matt did such a good job of just really zooming in and focusing on that city. I've done that before too, and it's a lot of fun. Spent, the whole entire campaign as basically superheroes of the city, and everyone loved that campaign. It was a lot of fun. But so this one I was kind of trying to change it up a little bit. You can do kind of a Lord of the Rings style where you start off somewhere and then you venture all the way across the world and you touch on some places and then you zoom in somewhere else. So it really just depends on your players, how long they want to stay there. You can put a couple plot lines in the city, a couple plot lines out of the city, and see what they follow. You can't be too strict, and you can't railroad too much in D&D, or it just doesn't work. So, how many tables do you have? We should play tabletop RPG sometime. What do you mean by tables? Like games or actual tables? It's just funny because I actually just bought another table, so we had three tables at my house for Magic, and then I'm putting two of them together for D&D. Eventually, I'd like to actually stream a home game. That's like way down the road, though. I only consistently do two. I swap on Mondays with a buddy of mine. I'm up for doing one more online, like a Roll20 situation. Some people in the chat did that one shot with me. It was really fun. We did a one shot with 5 people from the chat, 5 or 6 people from the chat, and it went fantastic. They did such a good job, and I ran that. One shots are a little more work for the time that you get out of it, so I'd probably do a couple more one shots and then want to actually try to do a full campaign. So 3 tables seems totally responsible. I agree. Enjoy Rain. I enjoyed them exploring Dressar, but I'm also excited for them to get out and explore the world. Super excited for the next episode. Yeah, I'm happy they're finally getting out. Things are starting to pick up. We're getting more into the story, but you needed that beginning 18 episodes for them to explore the city, care about the city, but also figure out who they were. And that's what I figured out. I didn't give my players enough time to figure out who they were as characters. They're figuring it out. They're doing a good job, but that's a mistake I made on this one. I didn't give my players enough time to figure out who they were. I should have slowed down those first 10, 11 sessions, but I kind of started them off quick, and I kind of regret it, but you can only do what you can with what you got. And campaign's still been great. I've loved it the whole entire time. So, including Donnie being our support guy, there was 6. Yeah. So, old Donatois, he really liked that character. It was kind of fun. He was like, "All right, I'll use one of the characters that you guys made on the stream," and he's gonna mess around with it a little bit, but I think he's gonna use that character in a full campaign sometime. Dressar was probably the most interesting city that Matt has introduced us to. I'm glad we stuck around for the long time. Yeah, it was nice. It was really nice because campaign 2, they hopped around a little bit. He gave us enough time to get to know the city, a little bit about the politics, and then move on to something else. And so he never really had too much time in a city. So he spent a lot of time in this one. Campaign 1, he jumped around the same few cities a lot. So you really got to know those, like Whitestone. You weren't there for 18 episodes at one time, but overall, yeah, you kept coming back. Every time someone would die, they'd come back, So you try to resurrect them or whatever. So yeah, this was nice to just do one slow burn. And I think he could do that in campaign 3 because he's earned our trust. It's kind of like there's a theory out there with the Marvel universe. With all the shows they're coming out with, they don't have to start off just go, go, go. They've earned enough trust from the audience where you actually can watch something slower, like WandaVision. If you haven't seen WandaVision, go watch it. It's amazing. First 3 episodes, very slow, but they're worth it. You trust them enough. You trust Marvel enough to actually give you the payoff, and we trust Matt enough to give us a payoff, and I love it so far. It's been great. Yeah, and Matt's, he's a maniac. He's made so much more, and being able to take these little breaks, he can spend more time, because that's the thing. You want to spend a lot of time creating your world beforehand, because if you don't, there's not a lot of time in between sessions. You have too much on your plate where you can do too much tweaking and peeking into your world. But yeah, so that's my world. That's Marrakesh. I have, a general layout for each of these cities. I know in my head, I'll probably never tell my players unless they ask, but I know in my head, what the big trade is, what their imports are, exports are, who they trade with, who they have good relations with, who have bad relations with. But other than that, I don't have mayors' names. I don't have who their high wizard is. I don't have too much more information. I have a list of about 100 NPC names with sex, race, and alignment. And then they met basically a guy that runs a pawn shop. His name is Jacomistic, and he's lawful good half-orc or whatever. Yeah, you just kind of throw those in there as they meet him. because you don't know what they're going to be looking for. Sometimes they want something weird, they want something pretty standard. But it's kind of like this stream, you know? I plan for one thing in my head, but then people ask for different things and I move along. It's a very apropos stream for Dungeons and Dragons. But do you think alignments matter a lot in D&D? I've seen mixed takes on it. They do matter. How much they matter is up for debate. That's why people can't agree on it. They definitely matter. They matter more for NPCs than for players. They do matter for players, though. I think why players need alignments is to keep themselves consistent. When you know your player's lawful good, you start acting chaotic, you need to have a reason for it. You need to, as a DM, I call my players out on it. Hey, you just did 3 chaotic evil things in a row. You're supposed to be lawful good. What happened? Why are you acting that way? Either bring yourself back or come up with a reason that you're changing your alignment. And it just so you can be consistent. Your character can 100% develop and change. I've seen it a million times, especially with anyone who's into like combat, right? So being in the military, I did a lot of work with people with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Someone who has these ideals, someone I would consider lawful good, goes into war, comes out from their first campaign, and is like, they're a different person, right? Their ideals have been thrown away with. So now they've changed. They've changed their alignment in game terms, and it's like, okay, that totally makes sense. If you're a person, we have a character who's kind of a kid at heart, right? He's an elf that hasn't been through the reverie yet, so it's kind of like puberty for elves. And he's 90-something years old, never been in a fight before. He ends up in the ocean surrounded by thousands of zombies, has to fight their way out of it. It really messes him up, and he starts getting a little from going good to a little bit more chaotic neutral, from chaotic good. And it totally made sense for his character. And I said it, and he's like, I don't think I want that for my character. I'm like, all right, well, think about it. I saw you do 3 chaotic, neutral, chaotic, evil things. Either rein yourself back in or keep going with this transition. What would your character do? He reined himself back in a little bit, but it kind of evolved his character a little bit, and he played into it really, really well, and I was super proud of him. So, yeah, I think it plays a role and is important, but you don't have to be a stickler about it. You don't have, unless it's part of your religion and you're a cleric or a paladin or a warlock, right? We saw it with Ford. Ford went more good and left warlock and went paladin. Totally made sense. But unless you're following a god, if your god is the one giving you powers and he's a lawful good god and you go lawful evil, then I'm going to have to punish you for that as the DM. But unless it's something like that, then there's really no punishment for it as much as calling you out and asking you questions. It's a really good question. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree with that take, but that's my take on it. Yeah, it does seem most useful as just a guideline to help the players with their decisions. Yeah, guideline's a really good way to put it. It's like the pirate code. It's more of a guideline. Pirates of the Caribbean, the first movie, and it's standalone, one of the better movies out there. All right, I don't have a lot more time, but I want to show you some basic stuff. Chaotic good with lawful evil tendencies. Yeah, see, that's totally could happen. You can even do someone who's a little bipolar, right? I mean, you go through mood shifts. Something happens. You're a lawful good person. You're struggling. That's why I like the flaws when you go to characters. Let's go to a character sheet real quick. And you go to description, go to your backgrounds, your character details. No. I got to pick a background. Charlatan. All right. So when you pick your flaws under the suggested characteristics, And this is more of a guideline too. You don't have to pick any of these. The flaws are the most important. So you say you're playing a lawful good character, and then boom, you can't resist a pretty face. Well, if you're playing a lawful good male human and you see some beautiful but evil pretty female, you may do some evil things because your flaw is that you can't resist her, right? You may do evil things to entice her, to please her, whatever. And now you're doing lawful evil tendencies. Like, I think that's the right way to play your alignment. Okay. Quick tutorial through Inkarnate. This up here is your shapes, and I usually like to do these rough edges when you're making your land, right? So, boom, there's an island. Beautiful. Really not tough. You can change your size to get a little more detail. So, you can get a little random with it. I mean, just kind of let it flow. Heck, boom, right here. Okay, so just without even thinking, just kind of going, okay, here's a great frozen tundra to the north. There is this giant body of water in the south. Why is there a giant body of water in the south? Who knows? But now you get to build that into your city and don't think about it too much. Kind of let the mistakes in the map create your world. If there's a giant body of water, put a little island in there. Now you got a city that's in the middle of this giant lake. Think about the north and the Great Lakes. Okay, the Great Lakes they are surrounded by some of the biggest cities in the world. So, Ontario? Ontario's on one of the Great Lakes, right? Detroit, Chicago. These are some major cities. And they're there and they do a bunch of stuff and are big cities because of the Great Lakes. So you can make a bunch of cities surrounding this Great Lake. This place can be filled with more water features now. Sure, just like that. Something super simple. Make it smaller as you zoom in, and make some islands. Kind of do some Hawaiian islands up here. Why not? Just free flow, man. Don't think too much about it. Let's kind of bring this in a little bit. But yeah, that took 2 minutes to do? You could make a full world based off of this. Or you can do little tweaks and peaks. You can erase something. Is Cleveland on a Great Lake? I've never been to Cleveland. Superior, Huron, Michigan, Erie, and Ontario. Oh, it's Lake Ontario, right? 1 second. All right, I have to go. Something just came up. Nothing bad, only good. But I guess I'll do another stream some other time and go a little more into detail in this world. But we can totally, like I said, I just freeformed, right? A couple continents, one in the middle, and messed around a little bit. And you can make an entire world just off of that. Go super into detail if that's what you like. If not, make another one, erase it, do it again. Some people like the bean method. Bean method is fine, but I think that was way faster, and this looks great. Like, this would be super simple and you can go in and, okay, I don't like that there's this much water. All right, let's make this a big swamp area. Why not? Let this be a marshland. Then you can go in deeper and do rivers and stuff. I did one. So let's go to, there's an erase button right there, so subtract. All right, so I did one continent that was basically like an island like this, right? Let's make it more in the center for you guys. And I ran a river that is way too big. Let's go as small as I can go. And I ran a river right through the middle of it, like the Nile or something, right? And now you kind of have these dueling continents, and whoever controls this river going through, that's a house for, or a story for a bunch of wars, right? Now you have the north and south continent, almost like a civil war. You can think of it like the Mediterranean Sea, where you have all the different European countries, and then what's on Alexandria, right? Alexandria's on the coast of Africa. Egypt's down there, which Alexandria is part of Egypt. Anyway, all right, my mind's not here. I gotta go. Province Ontario borders the Great Lakes. What's the city that's north of Niagara Falls? That's the one I'm trying to think. I've been there. I'm not thinking about. I'm not from the north, so I don't. My geography's failing me right now. Pretty much a canal, which could have a major shipping way, safer than going out into the ocean. So lots of reasons to fight over it. Perfect. You know what? Let's go with that Mediterranean vibe, and you could totally just do. Let's add it again, and block it. It's not. This is the major way, and then, like you said, a canal. Subtract. Let's go as small as we can go, and now you have. Right here is a little canal. You'd have to go in super close. I don't think it'll let us go any smaller than that, but you can make this little. There you go. Beautiful little canal right there. And Ellie's got it. So this is the Ellie Canal. This is the Ellie Canal, and there's a huge war over it because this stops you from having to travel all the way around for trade and whatnot. And these type of features are how you create your wars, how you create your tension. This is your desired landmarks. So that's the kind of stuff you want to think about when you're building your cities, when you're building your whole entire world. That's such an ugly lake, though. I'm going to go back and mess with this more. Let's make it more, I'm subtracting again, more like a Great Lake, right? You can make it prettier than this. It's just, but you have the concept there. Now you can go in and make it pretty. So anyway, it's a great tool to use for those of you who haven't. And we got the Ellie Canal right there. Okay. All right, I got to go. I appreciate you guys stepping on. I just wanted to do a quick stream. I will be streaming Thursday. I missed this Thursday, but again, life happens first. I want to make sure I jumped on at least once this week, said hi to everybody. So appreciate the questions. I will. We may or may not finish this next week. I'll think on it. Probably just do another character creation next week. But if you guys, after the first character, you guys want to jump back on and make this world, let's do it, man. It'll be fun, and then someone can use it. I can send you the link to this, and you can totally use it. Appreciate it, Darian, Ellie, Rain, whoever else is still on here. I appreciate you guys, and hope you have a good start to your week, man.